This is the new Fujifilm GF 55mm f1.7. It is the lens that I have been waiting for since the original 50S existed and was announced to the public. I have wanted a fast aperture, medium range, kind of normal focal length, and they have absolutely delivered with this lens. So let's check about what I love about it, what I do not love about it, because there are some things that, despite it being one of my sort of dream lenses, it's definitely not perfect. So let's talk about it. And this video is not sponsored by Fujifilm. I've had it for a couple of weeks, but I am sending it back today as soon as I'm done with these videos. But if you do want to support the channel, the like button is free. The subscribe button also free. And if you want to support financially, you can join my Patreon, buy my presets or LUTs, and you'll be seeing a lot of the presets and how they look in this video when looking at images, especially comparing them to the 65 Midicon that has been kind of my go-to for medium format lenses, as well as the 35 and 50 GMs on the Sony a7R5. Now, there are a lot of ways to make the calculations of comparing medium format to 35 millimeters. One of the harder things to do in that is the fact that not only is the sensor larger, but also the aspect ratio is a little bit different. So when you are figuring out focal lengths, you can either take what the cropped version of this would be, or just go from corner to corner. But it's kind of hard to really estimate what that is. But overall, this is like a 44-ish millimeter look. So a little bit wider than a 55, and the aperture, obviously it's going to be letting in the same amount of light. Your f-stop is not changing, but the look and the apparent depth of field, which I'm sure our comment section is going to get wild about people debating about apparent depth of field, but the overall look of the depth of field looks more like a f1.3, f1.4 lens. So you're not getting something that is wildly different than something like either the 35 1.4 here, especially if you cropped that to a 4:3 aspect ratio, or the 50 1.4. You're still getting somewhere kind of in the middle of those two looks. And for myself, in terms of what I'm looking for in terms of weddings on a medium format, those kind of environmental full body portraits are absolutely perfect on a lens like this. And the reason I was most excited about trying out a lens like this on a medium format camera. So you can see here at the wedding that I did with this, actually the day after I got the camera in, I photographed a ton of images with this. The look of this isn't as kind of wild and shallow as something like the 65 1.4. Obviously, you're getting a little bit faster of a lens at 1.4, and you're getting a little bit more compression at 65 millimeters instead of 55. But I will say that I slightly do prefer the field of view of the 55. I do wish it was a 1.4. That would definitely kind of help separate my subject. So the times where I can use depth of field or the lack of depth of field and make something super shallow is a tool that obviously we see wedding photographers use all the time, but it is something that in my arsenal is very helpful. And it is definitely that thing that looks kind of like more medium format-y in the wedding and portrait world, at least, having that super shallow depth of field, especially while retaining a lot of the context of the rest of the scene. So if we look into the image quality and see what you're actually getting out of this lens is incredibly sharp. Even full resolution, wide open, 100 megapixels, zooming in, you're just seeing a ton of detail. This obviously resolves up to this sensor. And as far as the out of focus elements go, there's nothing that is distracting. You're not getting any weird kind of hazy looks to things. I wouldn't say that the bokeh has a lot of character necessarily, but it definitely doesn't need to, because this lens is a lens that I have been, again, wishing they had made for the last 6 years or whatever that this format has existed. Now, on a camera like the GFX 102 that I obviously use this on, the autofocus is good, not great. And the thing about that is it's not necessarily even the camera's fault, it's in the lens. I don't know a ton about the specifics on the nomenclature and whatnot between what this is actually called, but it is not a linear motor or whatever's in there. This is definitely like a mechanical, like stepping kind of motor, because even in manual focus, you're seeing this thing go it just does not focus smoothly at all. And especially in terms of nailing focus on a moving subject, it just is not reliable at all, unfortunately. There are plenty of instances from this wedding where I was using this thing and using the face and eye tracking, all that kind of stuff, and you can just see that it's just not doing it. It's definitely just kind of a jumping around. It's not focusing really, really closely and clearly. And the problem with that as well is that, okay, sure, I'm having an issue with that. I've been used to using a camera like this and using a fully manual lens, but then the problem is I can't even rely on this in manual focus because it just jumps around so much. If I put this up here, you might be able to hear it. And that's in manual focus mode, but I'm not even necessarily talking about the camera itself, but I'm talking more about the lens. I'm sure there's a ton of mechanical and physical reasons why they chose the autofocus motor that they did, but I will absolutely say that is a massive disappointment to me that they did not choose a better, smoother autofocusing system to put into the lens like this. If they had, even if it cost more money or make it larger, it would have made this lens a way easier recommendation. Now, do I still want this lens for this system? Absolutely. It's a harder recommendation to make when I know that they have other lenses that focus much faster and can take better use of a fast autofocus system like is in the new GFX 102. So is this lens a bad lens? Not at all. Ultimately, I don't know if this is something that they can fix in firmware or anything like that to at least be more, I don't know, fluid in its movements. Especially, you would think that they'd be able to do that in manual focus. And I think if I was able to manually focus this more normally, I would be able to forgive the autofocus issues that I've come across in other ways, just because I'm not expecting this to be as fast as something like a Sony, but I do want it to be able to track a subject well enough that it can be reliable. And if not, I want to be able to switch over very, very fast to manual focus so that I can get that without it feeling like it's behind and kind of jerky and stuff like that. And if you're someone that uses the GFX system a lot at weddings, this is 100% the lens that I would buy at this moment in time. This is by far the most exciting lens for this system for someone like myself and my style of shooting. I hate to be kind of like the downer on something like this, but if you're able to kind of like lower your expectations of what you're looking to get out of a focusing system and maybe even just move it back to the analog film days of autofocus systems, then yeah, this is going to be fantastic. I absolutely love the look out of it. I think the focal length and the aperture combination are right in line of what I want out of this system. So if you are okay with those types of things, then absolutely this is a recommendation of mine. But I did want to be someone that at least gave my honest opinion of its downfalls, as I know a lot of people have been talking up the autofocus system in the GFX 102, but I think that the lens just isn't on par with the camera system in terms of those focusing motors at this point. But as long as you understand the limitations, I think, again, it's a fantastic lens that I am still very, very much considering picking up. So thanks very much for watching. If you have not subscribed already, please give this a thumbs up and a subscribe if you are interested and you think I earned your subscription with this. Check out my video I did on the 102, as well as my videos on the 50S and the 50S2, and I will see you in one of those videos.